The wooden house still held the warmth of the previous day when Uncle Adenor opened the kitchen door leading to the back porch. The air outside was fresh, laden with that scent of dew that settles on the grass overnight. He paused on the doorframe for a moment. There was no rush. The whole world seemed to be sleeping, wrapped in a dark, silent blanket. Only the slow breathing of the house itself kept pace with his. Maybe this is just another one of those quiet nights where someone works slowly while the world sleeps. And sometimes that's all we need to fall asleep too. Perhaps this is just another one of those silent nights where someone works slowly while the world sleeps. And sometimes that's all we need to sleep soundly. The porch floorboards creaked softly under the weight of his leather slippers. It was a familiar sound. He himself had nailed those planks decades ago, choosing the most resilient ipe wood he could find at the time. Over time, the wood had shrunk a little, settled into the climate, developed its own quirks. He knew every yielding plank, every nail that had risen a millimeter. He walked to the small corner table where he kept the oil lamp. The matchbox was exactly where his hand expected to find it. The strike of the matchstick sounded loud in the pre-dawn silence, a quick hiss followed by the scent of gunpowder and sulfur. The yellow flame was born timidly. He touched the flame to the lamp wick and adjusted the height with the small side knob. The warm orange light spread in a contained circle, revealing the contours of the porch. The shadows of the pillars stretched across the floor. The old carpenter looked at the row of pots leaning against the railing. There were many, clay pots of varied sizes, aligned with a precision that wasn't mathematical, but affectionate. There the begonias resided. The broad leaves, some dark with light veins, others a metallic green, looked like velvet under the trembling light. The soil inside the pots was light, dry at the edges. They needed to drink. In the opposite corner of the porch rested the zinc watering can. It was an old piece, bought at the neighboring town's market so long ago that the metal's original color had already been lost beneath a dull grayish patina. The top handle had an exact curve for his fingers to fit, polished by the sweat and friction of thousands of mornings just like this one. He walked to the watering can. The night air, before the light arrived behind the mountain range, was dense, almost palpable. He could feel the humidity touching his face, but he knew this moisture didn't reach the roots of the potted plants. The porch had a wide roof that protected the begonias from the strong afternoon sun, but also deprived them of direct rain. The responsibility for the water was entirely his. He rested his hand on the metal of the watering can. It was cold, a good cold that awakened the skin of his palm. There was no rush to begin. He stood there, his hand resting on the handle, listening to the sound of a solitary cricket chirping steadily somewhere near the brick wall. The sound marked time that didn't need counting. Teresa always said that night water was best for the plants. She'd say that in the dark, the soil was rested, ready to receive without the sun's heat stealing the moisture before it reached the deep roots. He didn't know if that was botanist science, but he knew her begonias had never dried, and they wouldn't dry now. He sighed slowly, feeling his chest fill with clean air. The lamp light flickered with a minimal breeze and then steadied. The scent of kerosene mingled with the smell of old wood,
and dry earth. It was time. The work awaited him, calm and silent, in the dark of one who awakes before the whole house does.
Uncle Adenor lifted the watering can by its handle. It was light, empty since the last watering. The hollow metallic sound resonated softly as he pulled it away from the wall. Near the stairs leading to the back door, there was a large blue drum where he collected rainwater, channeled from the roof gutter by a PVC pipe. The rainwater was soft, without the harsh treatment of tap water. The plants preferred it that way. He walked to the drum. His steps on the floorboards sounded muffled, a slow rhythm his body knew by heart. He removed the wooden lid that covered the container. The scent of still, clean water, with a hint of fallen leaves resting at the bottom, rose to meet his face. It was a scent of nature preserved, of rain bottled awaiting its moment to return to the earth. He plunged the watering can into the drum. The water swallowed the zinc with a soft gurgle, a liquid, round sound. The weight grew in his hand as the container filled. He felt the effort gently pull at his forearm muscles and shoulder tendon. It was a familiar weight, a weight that anchored him to the porch floor. When the water reached almost to the brim, he pulled the watering can up. Water ran down the metal side, dripping back into the drum with little splashes. He placed the lid back in its spot. The watering can now required both hands to be carried steadily. His right hand on the top handle, his left hand supporting the bottom or the back handle. His body adjusted to the weight, leaning slightly to the opposite side to maintain balance. It was a silent dance with gravity. He approached the first pot in the row at the far left of the railing. It was a wide pot made of fired clay, sheltering a begonia with thick leaves, almost black, their edges scalloped. The soil was loose on the surface. He tilted the watering can carefully. The water flowed down the long spout and out through the rows at the tip, divided into dozens of fine streams, like a controlled, gentle rain. The first contact of water with the dry soil produced an almost imperceptible sound, a very faint hiss of absorption. The soil's color changed immediately, from light, dull brown to a dark, glossy chestnut under the lamp's light. He watched the water form small puddles on the surface that, in seconds, were swallowed by the thirsty soil. There was no urgency. He poured a little more, moving the watering can's spout in a slow circle around the plant's base, ensuring the moisture reached all the pot's edges. The water shouldn't hit the stem directly, Teresa taught him. The begonia stem is plump, full of water. If it gets too wet, it rots. The water needs to go into the soil, around it, for the root to find. That first pot drank deeply. The old carpenter waited a moment, holding the watering can slightly tilted back, stopping the flow. He looked at the leaves. Some of them had a very fine fuzz on their surface. The yellow lamplight struck them, creating tiny shadows. A new scent began to rise right there, the unmistakable smell of wet earth, of settled dust, of life awakening in the dark. His arm relaxed some of its tension. The first pot was ready. The soil was now level and wet, heavy within the clay. He took a sideways step, dragging his soft slipper across the floorboards, positioning himself in front of the second pot in the long row. The work was just beginning, and the night's silence remained unbroken around him, without any disturbance. The routine found its rhythm. Uncle Adenor moved the watering can spout to the next pot. He tilted the metal. The silver rain fell again, delicately,
drawing a dark circle on the dry earth. The hiss of absorption repeated itself. He followed the water's path with his eyes, watching how it skirted a small piece of pine bark, how it sank near the clay rim.
The rhythm settled into his body. A step to the side, the tilt of the watering can, the wait for the earth to drink, the return of his arm. It was a gentle, slow mechanic. His breath accompanied the pouring of the water. The scent of wet earth was stronger now, spreading through the porch, mingling with the cold pre-dawn air. It was a dense perfume, bringing a sensation of firm ground, of foundation. The third pot was smaller, made of a slightly more porous ceramic. Water ran down the inner side of the pot, and the clay walls seemed to sweat on the outside, darkening instantly. Teresa liked these pots that breathed. She'd say plastic suffocated the roots, didn't let the plant know if it was cold or hot outside. Clay didn't. Clay told the root about the weather. He remembered when they went together to buy those pots. It had been at a pottery shop on the side of a dirt road many years ago. She'd run her hand along the rim of each one, testing its roughness, tapping her knuckles to hear the sound. If the sound was too metallic, she'd set them aside. She wanted the ones that sounded deep, muffled. She said they were the kindest to the plants. He just carried the stacks to the truck bed, observing her care with things that seemed so simple. The water continued to flow from the watering can. The fourth pot, the fifth. The weight in his left arm suddenly began to lessen as the zinc drum emptied. Each tilt required a little more angle for the water to reach the spout. The sound of water inside the watering can changed, becoming more hollow, echoing against the metal walls. He didn't look at the dark backyard beyond the porch. His attention was entirely contained within the space lit by the lamp, that square meter of focus that moved with him. The whole world was just the floorboards, the wooden railing, the round pots, and the asymmetrical leaves of the begonias. In the sixth pot, the plant was leaning slightly to the side, heavy with its own growth. He watered the base with the same care. The water formed an air bubble in the soil, which burst with a wet sound, leaving a small, dark hole. The old carpenter watched the water fill that void and disappear downward. The earth's patience in swallowing the water was the same patience he had in pouring it. He kept at it, the movement repeated without haste, without him needing to think about the muscles he used. It was knowledge ingrained in his bones. The night remained still, cold and immense as he tended to that small piece of rooted life. The scent of humidity now filled everything, a smell that embraced him and told him things were exactly where they should be. The watering can tilted over the seventh pot, but Uncle Adenor stopped the movement before the water came out. The zinc spout hung suspended in the air. Between two broad green leaves of an angel wing begonia, there was a dry leaf. It was brown, curled upon itself, attached to the stem by a dried fiber strand. It contrasted with the moist vitality of the rest of the plant. He pulled the watering can back. The weight of the metal required steadiness, so he slowly set it down on the porch floorboards. The zinc bottom touched the wood with a muffled thud. His arm appreciated the momentary rest. With his right hand free, he approached the pot. The lamplight cast the shadow of his fingers onto the house wall, thick fingers with knuckles marked by decades of sandpaper, handsaw, and chisel. He brought his fingers close to the dead leaf. His touch was light. The leaf was brittle, with the texture of very old paper left in the sun. He held it between his thumb and forefinger and gave a minimal twist, an almost imperceptible twist. The leaf detached from the stem with a dry snap, without resistance.
The plant seemed ready to let it go.
He held the leaf in his hand. He observed the network of veins that still marked the dry surface. It was impressive how the structure remained after life had departed. As a carpenter, he understood veins, the paths where sap flowed. The dead wood he worked with in the workshop was, at its core, the same as that leaf, a memory of something that once drank water from the earth. As he held the leaf, a very faint sound caught his attention. A small moth with velvety brown wings flew in irregular circles around the warm glass of the oil lamp. The beating of its wings against the glass produced a very rapid and insistent tick-tick. It sought the light, hit against the invisible barrier, moved away and tried again, trapped in that tiny orbit. He watched the moth for a moment. The pollen of its wings lightly stained the clean glass of the oil lamp. The insect didn't seem to hurt itself, just persisted in its clumsy dance. The old man didn't try to shoo it away. There was enough space on the porch for him, for the plants, and for the small nocturnal creature. With a gentle movement, he crushed the dry leaf within his closed hand. It turned into rough crumbs against his calloused skin. He brought his hand to the pot's base and opened his fingers, letting the pieces fall onto the still dry earth. Teresa always did this. She'd say the leaf that dies must return to the pot to become food for the leaf that is born. Nothing is lost. Everything turns to earth again. He wiped the dust from his hand by rubbing it on the side of his denim pants. The thick fabric scraped against his skin. He bent down again, flexing his knees with the caution that age demanded. His right hand found the watering can's top handle. His left supported its side. The metal still held the water's coolness. He lifted the weight again, regaining his balance. He positioned the spout over the seventh pot, now free of the dry leaf. The water began to fall again, the sky still navy blue covering the whole village. The hiss of the earth absorbing the moisture resumed. The work continued, uninterrupted, peaceful, returning water to the clay, while the moth continued its silent rounds around the light. Uncle Adenor felt the watering can's water drawing to an end. The stream of the rose became thin, faltering, and then stopped, leaving only a slow drip. He lowered the metal. He needed more water. The path to the blue drum was retraced, the same short steps across the Ipe floorboards. The engulfing of the watering can repeated the bubbling sound, swallowing the stored rainwater. When he turned back to the row of pots, he noticed the light around him had subtly changed. The deep darkness of the backyard, which had previously seemed like a solid wall beyond the porch, was beginning to recede. It wasn't yet dawn, far from the sun's appearance. It was that first break in the gloom, the moment when shadows cease to be black and become a very dark blue, almost gray. The outline of the large avocado tree at the back of the yard began to etch itself against the sky. The lamp flames seemed a little weaker against this imperceptible shift in the world. The yellow light still illuminated the pots, but now it vied for space with the very thin lightness descending from the roof. A new breeze swept through the porch. It wasn't the still wind of deep night, but a slightly colder breath, carrying the scent of damp brush from much farther away, perhaps from the pasture hill. He felt the wind touch the nape of his neck. He adjusted his posture, feeling the full watering can's weight pull his shoulders down. He walked to the eighth pot. The water began to fall again. The earth drank. The scent rose. Everything repeated in its usual rhythm. The constancy of the gesture brought a solid peace to his head. He looked at the begonia he was watering. It was a sapling that had grown a lot in months past. The leaves were a light green, full of white spots as if they had been splattered with paint. He remembered well where that plant had come from. It hadn't been bought at a flower shop or brought from a market. It had borne from a broken branch. Teresa had the habit of saving any piece of plant that fell. If the wind broke a stem, or if a dog bumped into the pot, she'd collect the injured branch. She'd take an American glass, like those for coffee at the bakery, fill it with clean water, and place the branch inside. She'd leave it on the kitchen windowsill, where only the morning light touched. He used to observe the cup. In the first few days, nothing happened. The branch seemed just a piece of brush slowly dying. But she'd change the water every other day. With time, he'd see small white tips emerge on the submerged part of the stem. Roots, thin as strands of hair, fragile, seeking nutrients in the pure water. When the roots were long enough, looking like a white web inside the glass, she'd prepare a new pot with fluffy soil and transfer the sapling. That spotted begonia was a child of one of those water cups. It had survived the break, the cold water of the glass, the transition to earth. Now it stood there, strong, spreading broad leaves out of the clay pot. The old carpenter moved the watering can spout with extra care around its base, ensuring the water descended to where those old white roots were hidden. The sky light brightened another fraction. The rooster of the back neighbor was still asleep. The silence on the porch was broken only by the hiss of wet earth and the gentle wind in the distant avocado tree. He took another step to the side, carrying the full watering can to the next pot. The work continued through his hands, calm and certain, accompanying the invisible turning of the night. The floorboards creaked differently under Uncle Adenor's left foot. It was the plank near the central pillar. He knew there was a knot in the wood there that left the surface a little uneven. It wasn't a defect. It was a characteristic of the tree that couldn't be erased by the plane. He liked that imperfection. He kept his foot there for an instant as the watering can's water flowed into the 10th pot. The row of plants was arranged on a long rustic wooden bench, a wide step that ran parallel to the railing. The carpenter looked at the bench's structure as the water moistened the earth. He himself had built that. It had been weeks of work in the back workshop, long before his hair went white, long before the porch had so many plants. The memory came whole, brought by the scent of wet wood that splashed outside the pots. Teresa had started complaining that the pots on the ground caused back pain to water. She wanted something elevated. He, with the precision his profession demanded, drew a complex piece of furniture on a piece of brown paper. He wanted to make perfect dovetail joints, use polished pink peroba wood, apply marine varnish to resist water. He wanted an art of art for her plants. He remembered the night he showed her the drawing at the kitchen table, under the light of the same oil lamp that now illuminated the porch. She looked at the paper, ran her finger over the straight pencil lines, and smiled, a practical smile. She told him it didn't need luxury to hold a clay pot. She said highly polished and varnished wood didn't suit the earth. The earth likes what is rustic, what breathes, just like clay. She asked for thick, strong planks, nailed simply. She wanted gaps between the timbers for the water to drain and not pool. He had felt a pang of disappointment at the time. He wanted to show his skill, to give her the best of his craft. But he obeyed. He went to the lumber yard, bought heavy garapeira planks, hard wood that endures time. He cut them to the right size, sanded just enough to remove dangerous splinters,
and assembled the structure with thick nails and rustic screws. He left a finger's width of spacing between each top plank. He didn't apply varnish, just a mineral oil for basic protection. When he installed the long bench on the porch and she placed the first pots on it, he understood. The raw wood, yellowish at first, darkened with time. The water that leaked from the pots ran through the gaps, staining the gadapeira wood with shades of brown and gray. The earth that fell became trapped in the grains. The bench ceased to be a piece of furniture made by a man and became part of the garden. It aged along with the pots, accepted the humidity, accepted the weight. It became perfect precisely by not trying to be flawless.
The light around him had advanced a little more. The navy blue of the sky already had a touch of light gray near the roof. The contours of the porch pillars were sharper. The shadows cast by the oil lamp began to lose their strength, fading on the floorboards. The world was preparing to awaken, but he still held dominion over that last piece of night. He reached the last pot, the smallest of all. The water descended from the watering can in a continuous trickle. The sound was brief. The earth darkened completely in a few seconds. He kept the watering can tilted until the last drop fell from the rose, clinging to the metal for an instant before letting go and hitting the soil. The zinc drum was empty. The old carpenter's arm relaxed completely. He lowered the watering can, letting it hang beside his body. The muscular effort of the last hour slowly dissipated, replaced by a feeling of lightness and duty fulfilled. The work with the water was finished. The begonias were sated. The porch was watered. The silence, once inhabited by the hiss of water, was now filled only by the sound of the wind itself in the damp leaves. He stood there before the last pot, with no urgency to leave. His body was accustomed to the stillness of attention. He cast his eyes over the whole length of the garapera bench, reviewing the wet path he had traversed, the darkened pots, the clean leaves, the settled earth. The work was ready to receive the day. Uncle Adenor turned slowly, his slippers softly dragging on the épais floorboards. He walked back to the opposite corner of the porch, near the large blue drum. That was the watering can spot. He lowered his arm and rested the zinc base on the wood. The metal touched the floor with a dry, definitive sound, a period at the end of that long pre-dawn sentence. He released the handle. The fingers of his right hand were slightly stiff, molded by the time they had held the weight. He opened and closed his hands a few times, feeling his joints crackle softly. He rubbed his palms on the side of his pants to dry any stray splashes. The rough denim's texture brought the sensation back to his skin. A few steps away, leaning against the house wall, was a simple wooden bench, smaller than the one for the plants, made just for sitting. He walked over. He rested both hands on his knees and sat down with a small sigh that was lost in the cold air. His back finally rested against the vertical wood. His whole body yielded to rest. From that position, he had a complete view of the porch. The oil lamp remained lit on the small table, its flame now very pale against the gray light that was beginning to claim the backyard. The yellow light still illuminated the floorboard grains and reflected off the damp clay of the pots. The row of begonias seemed more alive, more present, breathing the water he had delivered. The scent of wet earth enveloped the porch, the house, the entire house. It was a good scent to inhabit. The old man crossed his hands over his lap. He didn't think about what he would do next, didn't think about the coffee he'd need to brew, nor the wood he'd need to cut in the workshop. The time for those things had not yet arrived. A little bird chirped faintly in the avocado tree's branches, the first sound of the day announcing itself from afar. The moth that had circled the oil lamp had disappeared, perhaps tired of seeking the fire. The night was ending, silently draining through the gaps in the roof. He felt the breeze touch his face, cold and gentle. He rested his head against the wooden wall and stayed there, eyes open,
watching the moisture penetrate the earth as the darkness bade farewell.